Our story begins in the late 18th century, during the height of the Oyo Empire, a vast and mighty Yoruba kingdom, whose power stretched across what is now present-day Nigeria and far beyond. Its influence and wealth were unmatched, its armies feared, and its ruler, the Alaafin, held the reins of this grand empire. At the heart of this kingdom stood one man whose name would echo through history, Afonja, the Kakanfo, the supreme military commander of Oyo. Afonja was a man of legend, a warrior unmatched in skill and a strategist of unparalleled cunning. Tall, imposing, and resolute, he stood as the protector of the empire's northern frontier. Ilorin, the city he governed, was far from the capital, sitting on the edge of Oyo's borders, a land in constant need of vigilance. It was a land of opportunities, a place where the winds of fortune could either bless or curse you. And Afonja, always the visionary, saw it not just as a post of duty, but a place of possibility. As the Kakanfo, Afonja led the Oyo forces with unyielding strength, defending the empire against countless threats, whether from neighboring kingdoms, rogue tribes, or the rising power of the Fulani to the north. His fame had spread far and wide, and his name was revered by both his soldiers and the people he ruled. He was a man who commanded not just respect but all. But with power comes both glory and burden, and the weight of that burden grew heavier with each passing year. Yet, despite the acclaim, despite the victories on the battlefield and the reverence of his people, Afonja grew restless. He had become increasingly disillusioned with the central authority of the Alaafin, the king of Oyo, whose demands seemed endless. Taxes were levied upon Ilorin without mercy, resources drained to fund the capital's lavish courts, while the northern frontier remained an afterthought. Afonja's warriors were often neglected, their needs ignored, and the lands of Ilorin suffered. Through the years, Afonja had built a loyal army, men who fought beside him, bled with him, and followed his every command. But as his power grew, so did his discontent. He began to question whether his loyalty to the Alaafin was still justified, or if Ilorin, his beloved Ilorin, deserved something more: independence, freedom from the distant rule that seemed to drain the land dry. Afonja, what is it we fight for? Our people toil and bleed for a kingdom that does not even recognize our sacrifices. Oyo may rule over us, but it has forgotten the strength of Ilorin. It is time we take our fate into our own hands. No longer will we be beholden to a distant throne. With these words, Afonja's mind was set. The notion of rebellion, of carving out an independent Ilorin, took root in his heart. It was an idea both dangerous and intoxicating, a fire that burned brightly within him. He knew the risks. Defying the Alaafin was a perilous game, one that could cost him everything, but Afonja was no stranger to risk. He had faced death countless times on the battlefield, and he now found himself ready to face it once more, not as a servant, but as a king. Afonja's ambition was not to remain a mere commander under the rule of the Alaafin. No, he dreamed of something far grander, an Ilorin independent and free from the chains of Oyo. It was a daring vision, one that could either elevate him to legendary status or cast him into ruin. But ambition often blinds the wise, and Afonja, though a great warrior, was as much a prisoner of his desire as any man driven by greed. Little did Afonja know, his quest for power would set off a chain of events that would alter the course of history. His pursuit of freedom would come at a price, and soon, Ilorin would find itself not just in the crosshairs of Oyo's rulers, but of forces far greater and more dangerous than he could ever have imagined. Thus, the stage was set. The land of opportunities had revealed its darkest secret: ambition, once ignited, could consume everything in its path. As the sun dipped low over the plains, casting its warm, golden light across the horizon, the town of Ilorin began to pulse with life. Nestled in the heart of West Africa, Ilorin's strategic location made it a natural crossroads for trade and culture, where peoples of various ethnic backgrounds converged, drawn by the promise of exchange, be it goods, ideas, or beliefs. Over time, the town had flourished, with its markets bustling and its fields rich with harvests. But amid this growing prosperity, a quiet change was beginning to take root, one that would alter the course of Ilorin's history forever. It was during this period of growth and transformation that Shehu Alimi, a man from the north, arrived in Ilorin. He was a Fulani Islamic scholar and preacher, a man of deep faith, bound by an unshakable commitment to spreading Islam and inspiring others through the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. Word of his wisdom, his humility, and his steadfast devotion to Islam quickly spread across the region. Those who heard him speak, even in his soft-spoken way, were struck by the sincerity and depth of his words. Alimi's journey to Ilorin was not one of conquest or command. He was not a man driven by the desire for power or fame, but by a quiet, unyielding passion to share the message of Islam, peace, and unity with those around him. He arrived with no grand army or banner of war, no riches to boast of, but with only the strength of his knowledge and the weight of his conviction. It was under the shade of a large tree on the outskirts of town that Shehu Alimi first began to teach. His voice, calm and steady, rose above the gentle rustling of leaves as he spoke to a small gathering of followers. Among them were men and women of different backgrounds, some Hausa, some Fulani, and others who had settled in the town from distant places. Yet despite their differences in ethnicity, language, and customs, they were united in their search for something greater than themselves, a shared thirst for knowledge and spiritual understanding. "Islam is not just a religion," Alimi said, his words carrying the weight of a truth that resonated deeply in the hearts of his listeners. "It is a way of life, a call to peace and unity. True faith is not measured by the number of prayers one offers, nor by the wealth one amasses. It is measured by the purity of the heart, the sincerity of one's intentions, and the strength to stand for justice and righteousness." His words fell like rain on the dry soil of the people's hearts, nurturing the seeds of faith that had long been planted but remained untended. Alimi's teachings were simple but profound, truths that seemed to touch something deep within the hearts of his followers. There was no force behind his words, no anger, no demands. It was all invitation and guidance, a steady light for those who were lost in the dark. As his influence grew, so too did the number of his followers. Slowly but steadily, the group around Alimi grew larger, until one could see dozens gathered at any given time beneath the shade of the great tree, listening to his quiet wisdom. They came not only from Ilorin but from surrounding villages, drawn by the force of his message. The Fulani and Hausa were particularly receptive to his teachings, their deep connection to the land and faith aligning perfectly with the values Shehu Alimi espoused. Yet, Alimi's message was not limited to the followers of his own tribe or ethnicity. His teachings were inclusive, his invitation to embrace Islam one that transcended tribal divisions. The idea of unity, of bringing together different people under the banner of faith, became the cornerstone of his work. He called upon the people of Ilorin to embrace their shared humanity, and to see beyond the differences that had often divided them. Whether you spoke Fulani, Hausa, or Yoruba, Alimi believed, you were all one before God. Soon, his influence began to stretch beyond the spiritual realm. As more people embraced Islam, Alimi's wisdom in matters of governance and community became apparent. The people of Ilorin, from merchants to farmers, began to look to him for guidance not only on matters of faith but also on how to live peacefully together in a growing town. His teachings on patience, humility, and mutual respect served as a moral compass for the people. Where once the town had been divided by differences in language, culture, and religion, Shehu Alimi's message of unity began to weave the community together like a single, strong fabric. Under his leadership, the people of Ilorin began to organize themselves into a more cohesive and cooperative society. They started to work together, ensuring that disputes were resolved peacefully and that fairness prevailed in matters of trade, law, and social conduct. It was Alimi's belief that a community based on unity and shared values would be stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous than one driven by division. His rise to prominence was not immediate, but it was steady. With each passing day, Shehu Alimi's name became synonymous with wisdom, humility, and leadership. He did not seek fame or glory for himself, nor did he demand followers for his own sake. His followers came to him because they believed in the righteousness of his cause and in the integrity of his character. In time, Shehu Alimi became a trusted spiritual leader in Ilorin, not just for the Fulani and Hausa peoples but for the town as a whole. His influence spread far beyond the boundaries of his original followers, reaching into every corner of the town. People who had once been skeptical of his teachings now sought him out, drawn by the sincerity and peace that emanated from him. He was a man who lived his words, who embodied the very principles he preached. As Ilorin continued to grow into a thriving town, Shehu Alimi remained a guiding force, shaping the direction of the community with his wisdom and his unwavering faith. His influence was felt not only in the spiritual realm but in the very fabric of the town itself. Under his watchful eye, Ilorin became a place where people of all backgrounds could live side by side, united by faith and respect. In the years that followed, the legacy of Shehu Alimi would continue to grow. His message of unity, peace, and faith would echo through the generations, and the community of Ilorin would forever bear the imprint of the quiet preacher who had arrived from the north with nothing but his wisdom and the strength of his belief. Afonja and Shehu Alimi's unlikely alliance in Ilorin marked a pivotal moment in the history of the region, one that would shape the destiny of the city and its people for generations to come. Both men, although coming from very different backgrounds, found common ground in their desire to achieve independence, and together, they created a partnership that blended military might with spiritual influence. Afonja, a warrior and a leader, was deeply dissatisfied with the status quo under the Oyo Empire. He had risen through the ranks of the Oyo military, and over time, he grew increasingly disillusioned with the empire's centralized control and its neglect of the more distant provinces like Ilorin. The people of Ilorin, including Afonja, had long been subject to the authority of Oyo, and the warrior saw rebellion as the only path to freedom and self-governance. The Oyo Empire, which once stood as a powerful force, had become vulnerable due to internal strife and external pressure. Afonja saw an opportunity in the weakening of the empire and sought to break free from its influence. On the other hand, Shehu Alimi was a charismatic and influential Islamic cleric who had been spreading the message of Islam throughout the region. A man of religious conviction, Alimi was not just a preacher but also a scholar, and he believed that the expansion of Islam could bring about not only spiritual salvation but also a social and political transformation. His faith was a source of strength for him, and he sought to bring Islam to new territories, believing that it could provide the people with a sense of unity and purpose. For Alimi, the spread of Islam was not merely about personal belief. It was about building a community based on shared values and principles that transcended the divisions of ethnicity, culture, and politics. When Afonja heard of Alimi's growing influence, he recognized the potential of such a partnership. He saw that Alimi could help him consolidate support from the people of Ilorin and beyond, particularly from the Muslim communities who were increasingly receptive to Alimi's teachings. Alimi, for his part, saw in Afonja a powerful and committed ally who could offer the military might necessary to protect and expand the influence of Islam in the region. Afonja's leadership and military prowess, combined with Alimi's spiritual authority, created a formidable duo. Together, Afonja and Alimi formed an alliance that transcended their differences. While Afonja focused on the military and political aspects of their mission, organizing the defense of Ilorin and leading the rebellion against Oyo, Alimi played a crucial role in uniting the people under the banner of Islam. He used his position as a religious leader to inspire a sense of solidarity among the diverse groups living in Ilorin. Alimi's influence was not just limited to the Islamic community. He was able to bring together people of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds by framing their struggle as a common cause. Afonja, as a warrior, was a man of action. He knew how to marshal forces, organize defenses, and lead men into battle. His background in the military made him the ideal leader for the rebellion against Oyo. However, Afonja was not just a warrior. He was also a pragmatic leader who understood the importance of alliances in achieving his goals. His relationship with Alimi was a testament to his willingness to look beyond traditional tribal or religious lines to find partners who could help him achieve his vision for Ilorin's future. Alimi, though a scholar and a preacher, was not without his own sense of purpose. His vision for Ilorin extended beyond mere religious expansion. He sought to build a society that was governed by Islamic principles, where justice, unity, and compassion prevailed. Alimi believed that the spread of Islam could bring about a new era of peace and prosperity, not just for Muslims but for all the people of Ilorin. His leadership was deeply rooted in his faith, and he was committed to guiding the people of Ilorin toward a more unified and just society, one that would be free from the political oppression of the Oyo Empire. Despite their differences, Afonja and Alimi found common ground in their shared vision for Ilorin. Afonja's focus on military defense and political independence complemented Alimi's desire to bring people together under a common faith. The two men worked together to strengthen their position in the region, securing the loyalty of the people of Ilorin and other surrounding territories. Their alliance represented a fusion of two different yet complementary forms of leadership, one based on military strength, the other on spiritual and moral guidance. Their partnership, however, was not without its challenges. Tensions sometimes arose between the military objectives of Afonja and the spiritual goals of Alimi. Afonja's rebellious spirit sometimes clashed with Alimi's more measured and patient approach to spreading Islam. Yet, their mutual respect for each other's vision and their shared goal of creating a better future for Ilorin allowed them to navigate these differences and maintain their alliance. In the end, the alliance between Afonja and Shehu Alimi proved to be a defining moment in the history of Ilorin. It marked the beginning of a new era for the city, one in which the political and spiritual needs of the people were intertwined. The legacy of their partnership would continue to influence the history of Ilorin and the surrounding region, as their vision of a united and independent Ilorin shaped the future of the area for centuries to come. Afonja's declaration of Ilorin's independence from the Oyo Empire was a defining moment in the region's history, signaling the unraveling of Oyo's long-standing dominance. His decision was a calculated one, forged with the spiritual backing of Alimi, a prominent cleric who had rallied a sizable following, particularly among the Fulani and Hausa communities. Afonja, a formidable military leader, recognized the weakening grip of the Oyo Empire and seized the opportunity to break free. With Alimi's religious influence, the rebellion gained both legitimacy and unity, as it brought together disparate groups under the banner of independence. The coalition Afonja led was a diverse one, blending Yoruba, Fulani, and Hausa warriors. Alimi's religious authority played a crucial role in expanding the rebellion's reach, as his followers, motivated by a vision of unity under Islam, fought alongside Afonja's warriors. Ilorin, once a stronghold of the Yoruba, was now shaped by Alimi's religious message, creating a city where ethnic lines blurred in the pursuit of a common cause. The rebellion's momentum grew as Afonja's forces captured strategic locations, weakening Oyo's control. Internal strife and external pressures further destabilized the Oyo Empire, making it clear that Ilorin's independence was within reach. However, as Afonja's power expanded, so too did the tensions within his ranks. The alliance with Alimi, while instrumental in the rebellion's success, began to introduce complex power dynamics that Afonja hadn't fully anticipated. The influx of Alimi's followers, particularly the Fulani, shifted the power balance in Ilorin. The once dominant Yoruba leadership grew anxious as their authority was increasingly overshadowed by Alimi's growing influence. The arrival of new recruits loyal to Alimi exacerbated tensions, as the Yoruba warriors felt their traditional dominance threatened. This created a delicate political situation for Afonja, who now had to navigate not just the external battle against Oyo but also the internal divisions within his own ranks. The conflict within Ilorin was more than just ethnic tension, it was ideological. Afonja had always focused on military strategy, using Alimi's religious support as a tool for political independence. However, Alimi's followers saw their struggle as one not just for political freedom, but for the establishment of an Islamic society. This ideological divide complicated Afonja's leadership, as the rebellion's objectives evolved beyond merely breaking free from Oyo. Alimi's religious influence began to overshadow Afonja's military leadership, creating a potential fracture in the coalition. As the rebellion progressed, the political landscape in Ilorin shifted. The once pragmatic Afonja now faced a growing ideological struggle within his own ranks. His military leadership and Alimi's religious vision were in tension, each vying for control over the city's future. What had started as a fight for political independence soon became a battle for the soul of Ilorin, a city on the cusp of being defined by military might or religious conviction. In the end, Afonja's rebellion was not only a challenge to Oyo's authority, but also a struggle for the future of Ilorin itself. The delicate balance between military strength and religious authority would determine the city's destiny, marking a pivotal moment in its history. The legacy of Ilorin's founding is deeply rooted in the spirit of unity and collaboration. Afonja's courage and strategic vision laid the foundation for the city's growth, enabling it to break free from the Oyo Empire's dominance. His military prowess and leadership sparked a rebellion that would change the course of history for the region. However, it was Shehu Alimi's wisdom and spiritual guidance that brought a sense of purpose and harmony to the newly formed community. His religious teachings and unifying message transcended ethnic and tribal divisions, helping to forge a coalition that was far stronger than the sum of its parts. Together, Afonja and Alimi created not just a city, but a society that thrived on the principles of mutual respect and shared goals. Today, Ilorin stands as a living testament to the power of collaboration. It is a city that continues to flourish, where people from diverse backgrounds work together for common prosperity. The traditions that shaped its past are still honored, while the city embraces progress and modernity. Ilorin's story is one of resilience, where the legacy of unity is evident in its ongoing success. It remains a place where different cultures coexist peacefully, offering a model for how diverse communities can build a better future together. The founding of Ilorin teaches us a valuable lesson about leadership. True leadership is not about power or domination, but about service, collaboration, and fostering a sense of shared purpose. Afonja and Alimi's partnership exemplifies how effective leadership is rooted in the collective strength of the people, not just the individual. Their journey reminds us that, in any community, unity is essential for achieving lasting success. When people come together, putting aside their differences for a common goal, they can overcome even the greatest challenges. As we reflect on the history of Ilorin, we are called to carry forward the values that shaped its creation: courage, wisdom, and unity. The story of Ilorin encourages us to build bridges, to work together despite our differences, and to honor the shared legacy that unites us all. It serves as a beacon for future generations, a reminder that with collaboration and mutual respect, we can create stronger, more harmonious communities.